Hey guys, it's Nick, and in this video, I want to talk about tiny homes and why they are a really big financial mistake. Now, I just saw an article about Ikea coming out with their own tiny homes. They're not really building their own, another company is building them. So, what I want to do is go look at the price of these tiny homes and show people what it's really costing them and showing them the different alternatives based on what your budget is, what your work situation is. A lot of people think that if they don't have a lot of money, they live in a tiny house and somehow that will be cheaper. But I'm going to show you that in most cases, it's actually more expensive than living in a traditional home. Now, if you're a retiree that just sold their house and bought a $200,000 RV just to travel the country, this video is not for you. If you're a young person starting out and don't have a lot of money, and think that by buying a tiny home, you're going to be saving money and living cheaply, I'm going to show you that's usually not the case. And so I'm going to show you some alternatives you can do to live a lot more cheaply while you save up money to maybe buy a house in the future. So let's take a look at why most tiny homes are a huge financial mistake. Now, here's the article about IKEA selling a 187 square foot tiny home. That they didn't mention the price here, but they said that the tiny homes are pre-assembled by a tiny home company called Escape. And so here's the Escape website, and they have two homes that they show for sale here. So this one is the Boho XL, and this one is the One. So I imagine the IKEA tiny home is going to be similar to this, and this one starts at $47,550. And it is a little bit bigger, 213 square feet, which is not a lot. It's like 10 by 20, basically. And this is what it looks like. This one is the One. It's 52,900, and it's a little bit bigger. It is 276 square feet. Now just note that this is the base price, $52,900. If you look here, there's all of these crazy options. Metal siding, $4,000. Small kitchen package, $4,000. Upgraded 3-burner stovetop, $2,200. You could buy a full stove in Home Depot, stainless steel, for $500. Tall refrigerator, $650. Just a stone kitchen countertop, additional $1,840. So with all of these washer dryer combo, $2,200, this thing you can see will add up really quickly, probably above $60,000 easily. And here's a sales quote from the One that they have in stock, I guess, and it has all these extras. And even with this so-called $5,500 discount, it comes out to $63,000. So before we compare the tiny homes to other things, I want you to keep in mind how much it costs to borrow $100,000 on a mortgage on a house. Right now, the cheapest is, say, about 3%. And so on $100,000, it costs you about $422. So that means if your monthly payment is $422, you can buy a house that costs approximately $100,000. You see, the interest rates for tiny homes are usually a lot higher than houses because they're not fixed to the land. So let's see what their offers of their competitive rates and terms that they have here. Tiny home and park model financing from 5.95% APR with auto pay with the asterisk there. And the asterisk says auto pay discount, blah, blah, blah. Excellent credit required for the lowest rate. Rates range from 5.95 to 19.99% APR. Okay, let's look at what that looks like. So if you're buying one of these homes for $50,000 to $100,000 and you have 24 to 36 months, it could be anywhere from 7.5 to 17%. And the farther you go out, which is most people, they try to take the longest term they can get to make the payments smaller because people shop on payments, not on price. 73 months to 84 months, that's only 7 years going out, and that's 10.99 to almost 20%. So let's take a look at the loan calculator. If you borrowed $50,000 to buy this tiny home, did the maximum loan term of 7 years, and the lowest interest rate of 11% that they showed, 10.99, your monthly payments would be $856. Coincidentally, that's twice that $422 amount approximately that I told you before that you can pay on a $100,000 mortgage. So the loan that you're paying for this $50,000 tiny home, if you could pay $856 a month, you can buy a house for $200,000. But wait, it gets worse. Let's say your credit is not that great. Let's say your credit's not that great and they're charging you the maximum 19.99%. Your monthly payments are $1,100. So maybe 2.5 times or more what a mortgage on a $100,000 house is. So in other words, with this payment, you can get a house for about $250,000 or so. But wait, it gets worse than that, because these homes that you're buying have no land attached to them. And so they want to show you these nice pictures of you being up in the wilderness somewhere on your laptop, drinking coffee in a cold storm. But the reality is, most people will probably put these tiny homes in some kind of mobile home park. And all of these places charge a lot of money for rent, for the water, for the sewage, for whatever they give you in that park. And those rents go from anywhere on the low end, the low end is probably $300 a month, to the high end of like $700 a month. So let's say you were in the middle at $500 a month you were paying, plus the $1,100 or so you're paying to pay off this $50,000 tiny home. And now your monthly payment is like $1,600. That's equivalent to almost a $400,000 mortgage on a house that you can afford if you could afford to pay $1,600 to pay off this tiny home that you don't even own the land on. So even if you bought the tiny home for cash, if you're still paying the lot rent of $500 a month or something, like I said, that's the equivalent of paying more than a $100,000 mortgage. So there are plenty of houses out there that are $100,000 or less that are a great alternative to a tiny home. But if you're young and you want to live that lifestyle for a few years, and I only say a few years because it will get old and you'll get tired of going to the bathroom in a composting toilet, or not having electricity, or not having water, or all of those kinds of problems, those things will get old. But if you want to do that for a few years without going deeply into debt, there's a few ways to do it. The cheapest way is to buy a used RV trailer, and you can buy these for probably $10,000 or so. So much cheaper than these tiny homes. Now, if you don't have a lot of money and want to live on a budget, buying one of these custom tiny homes for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 is kind of like needing some basic car transportation and buying one of these smart cars and then customizing it to the point that they cost twice the price or more than a basic Toyota Corolla or Hyundai Elantra or something like that. So you're not going to spend $60,000 on a smart car if you just need basic transportation, when you can just buy a used Corolla for $5,000 or something. Speaking of $5,000, instead of buying a tiny home, you can spend $5,000 on something like this, a 2003 Mountaineer with the pop outs and all this stuff. And everything is already built. It's built in a factory, so they have economies of scale. It may not be the nicest looking thing. It may not have real wood cabinets or something like that, or oak this or mahogany that, or $2,200 upgraded burners or refrigerator or whatever. But when you get sick of living in your RV after a year or two or something, even if you give the thing away for $5,000, you're not losing much, and you can buy this without some kind of high interest rate, paying 10, 12, 20%. So looking at this Vista Boho XL, that's $47,500 divided by the 213 square feet that this thing is. That comes out to $223 a square foot for this house that doesn't even have any land under it. So for the price per square foot you're paying for a tiny house, it's more than double the median listing price per square foot of all of the real estate in Texas. And Like I said, it doesn't include the land. These listings here include the land under it, which is usually the most valuable part of the house. So if you want to buy a tiny home because your work is location independent and you can afford the $500 or so lot rent along with the cost of the tiny home, along with the cost of the loan with the higher interest rate, you put those two together and you can buy a house. And a lot of people see that the median price of a house is whatever, 250,000 or something like that. You do a search, say on Zillow, you'll see that, I did a search between $5,000 and $50,000 just in this section of the US, and there's 13,000 listings. So if you buy a house for $50,000, your mortgage, if your mortgage is $50,000, that the loan is, the mortgage on that monthly is only like $211, and then you just pay tax, water, electricity, whatever, much cheaper than a tiny home by far, and you have the land under it. Now, are all houses under $50,000 going to be nice houses and in good neighborhoods? No, probably not, but there's plenty of them out there and you got to look around. Here's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in McCrory, Arkansas. Brick house, $50,000. It looks like it's in decent condition and it's 1,158 square feet, or less than $50 a square foot. So it's about 1/4 the price per square foot of a tiny home, plus you have the land under it as well. Here's one in Goldsboro, North Carolina, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet, $50,000. Here's one, Sumter, South Carolina, $50,000, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,059 square feet, 0.32 acres. Doesn't look terrible inside for $50,000. Here's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet for $50,000 in Pennington, Alabama. It's all brick. And it says also a mobile home is included in the sales price and goes with the house. So if you get the fever to go driving around, you already have a mobile home along with this house, and you have a house to come back to when you get sick of doing that. So guys, if you want to live cheaply, buying one of these custom tiny homes for $50,000, $60,000 and then paying for lot rent every month is not the way to do it. Either just buy one of these mass-produced metal RVs for cheap, or save up a little money, go find an area that has some cheap houses, and go buy something that maybe needs a little fixing up, put a little money into it, and you have a house with land. You don't have a depreciating asset like all of these tiny houses and RVs, because all of those things depreciate over time. They do not appreciate. So don't fall for all the glamour you see on these tiny home TV shows where they hire 2-3 carpenters to make all these special cabinets for you and all this stuff. And by the end of it, you're paying $70,000 for 180 square feet when you can have an actual house with land for that money in a lot of places in the US. And if anybody knows what the price of the Ikea tiny home is going to be, please leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.